Throughout the Xenoblade games, there has been a common trend that one of the best ways to tank in these games is simply not getting hit. The evasion tank or agility tank has commonly been one of the most effective strategies against the hardest enemies the games have to offer. The de facto evasion tank in Xenoblade 3 is the Zephyr class, the default class for Mio. I would say this class is defined by its short cooldowns allowing for spammable arts, making it one of the most fun classes to play with a good setup. In this video, I want to discuss the Zephyr class, talk about its strengths and weaknesses, and showcase what I believe to be the best setups and how to use the class effectively. While this guide will have most everything maxed out since I'm at the max level, you could still be in the early or mid game and find this guide useful. There will be no story spoilers in this video, but some characters will be using classes obtained from side content later in the game. And if you enjoy these guides and want to see more class guides for Xenoblade 3, as well as other guides for the game, please be sure to subscribe to the channel because it helps out a lot and allows me to continue doing this. Let's get into it. While I'd normally say that you can use any class on any character and there's just slight base stat differences between them that don't matter in most situations, the default 6 classes are a bit different in that a side quest later in the game involving Napans with hammers allows you to upgrade the main weapon of all 6 characters, which means Mio is definitely the best option to be Zephyr for getting a large stat bonus over anyone else using the class, including a really large attack increase that will make keeping aggro easier. The standard arts for Zephyr are Butterfly Blade, which has a pretty low power multiplier, but a very short cooldown and the ability to increase aggro generated from the art by 100%. A recharge gauge of 3 means you only need a combination of 3 auto attacks or cancels after using the art to obtain it again. This is worth using for that alone to help speed up your other cooldowns as well. Air Fang is her second art, which also has a cooldown of 3 for another very fast and spammable art, and a higher power multiplier of 250% that boosts damage by 100% if enemies are targeting you. This art compounds aggro and makes it easier to keep aggro if you already have it, and should be a strong consideration for one of your 3 arts that you use, especially since it also has a low cooldown to synergize well with Butterfly Blade. Her third art is Wide Slash. This art has the highest power multiplier of her standard arts, and a relatively quick cooldown of 5 with the bonus effect giving you guaranteed evasion while using the art, but the art will have a lower critical hit rate. Not the largest price to pay since it only affects this art, and having an art that guarantees evasion is always nice if you need to evade the dangerous attacks of an enemy. Her fourth art is Glow Ring. This has a slightly lower power multiplier and also has a cooldown of 5. The main gimmick of this art is applying a debuff to enemies called Target Lock. Essentially, this is somewhat like a taunt where the enemy can only target you. The main difference between this and a taunt is that it isn't guaranteed to work if the enemy has high debuff resistance, making it much less useful against stronger enemies like story bosses and unique monsters. The positive compared to taunt is the fact that enemies will be targeting you no matter what, whereas taunt you can still lose aggro immediately after using the taunt if you're not doing enough damage. Regardless, I think this is still one of the less useful arts in her kit. Her last art is a Stance art, which is basically a unique aura for a character that grants unique effects while active, and you can only have one active at a time. It has a recharge gauge of 9, which with her other lower cooldown arts could give her 100% uptime on this easily. And it does boost evasion by 30%, which is very nice when combined with high agility, and will make most enemies have a tough time hitting her, if at all. But there is a pretty big negative attached that will reduce her damage by 15%. One important thing about tanks is that they need to either have a guaranteed way to get aggro, or they need to have strong damage themselves to grab and maintain aggro. Since Target Lock is not reliable, Mio needs to have strong damage with Zephyr in order to reliably take aggro away from the attacker classes in the party, and as such, I don't really like this art, especially because the high cooldown makes it not synergize as well with her fast and spammy kit. Still, this can have some use if you just find yourself in desperate need of some extra survivability. The talent art for Zephyr is Gemini Strike. This has a good power multiplier of 700% and a recharge gauge of 3 based on roll actions, which are very easy to perform as a tank. The bonus effect will give you yet another way to get guaranteed evasion on her attacks, and will give a large boost to aggro when used, as well as making it even easier to maintain aggro. For her master arts, I have given her Quick Draw because it is one of the shortest cooldown Kevis arts, with only 11 seconds for the cooldown, and it also has a decent power multiplier of 270%, while also granting guaranteed evasion while using the art and giving a damage boost of 100% when attacking from the front. This goes super well with Mio's kit, since as a tank, the enemy should hopefully always be facing you to get this damage boost, and it gives you another art to evade with, and now 2 of your 3 fusion arts will evade, as well as long as you don't pair this with Wide Slash. Combine with Gemini Strike giving evasion, and you get guaranteed evasion on a lot of abilities in this kit. I like this art a lot. My second master art is Cross Impact. This art has a pretty low power multiplier, but it also has a short cooldown of 14 seconds, and most importantly, it will grant you Power Charge. Power Charge greatly increases the damage of your next art and affects fusion arts and talent arts as well. This is a very strong ability and can give you some very powerful Gemini strikes or a very strong fusion art. The low cooldown is also nice to get more fusion arts or to get more cancels faster to keep the art spam going. For the last master art, I have Hidden Thorn. This is a longer cooldown art, but it has a very high power multiplier and inflicts bleed, making it probably the highest damage Chemist master art to have. I have it paired with Wide Slash to give the strongest fusion art possible, so Power Charge can be extra beneficial when using it before this art. Some other good options to consider are Gale Slash to get another art with a damage boost to enemies targeting you, or any of the master arts with combos attached like Topple or Launch to give your party another option to use those. The default class skills are Stormy Gale, which boosts agility by 30%, not much to say here, simply a nice increase to increase evasion rate with the class. Her second skill is I'll Defend You, which gives a 16% chance to nullify attacks on allies around Mio. This works pretty well when combined with field effects since you can just get a lot of party bonuses at once when fighting. Split Second Counter will deal 200% of your attack as spike damage when an attack is evaded. This ability is not the most impactful, but the extra bit of damage can sometimes be nice. And the last class skill is Ether Sanctuary, which boosts your ether defense by 30%, so you take less damage from ether attacks. Not much more to say about that. Not the absolute best skill set for the class, but the extra agility is great and is still pretty functional for a tank class. For her master skills, I have Fighting Prowess to boost physical damage by 50%. The main 3 arts I'm using are physical arts as well as 2 of the master arts, so this provides a nice damage boost to those abilities to make keeping aggro much easier. There isn't really a great option to boost both physical and ether attacks by a larger amount in one slot, unless you are fighting an enemy higher level than you, in which case you can get a 50% bonus to higher leveled enemies. The next skill is Critical Strike, which increases critical damage by 50%, making your critical hits hurt a lot more, which acts as an independent multiplier to add to damage increases. Now her default crit rate with no upgrades is 24%, which isn't that amazing, but when combined with Eye for weak points, it becomes much stronger. Every attack or hit boosts critical rate by 2% until you get a 100% boost. Considering how fast Zephyr is, you can reach this 100% fairly easily and get a pretty high critical hit rate of 48%. This will ensure you're critting nearly half the time and give a lot of extra damage, making it much easier to maintain aggro. Now all 3 of these skills are more offensive than tank-based in nature, and there are some good tank skills like 50% evasion on all ranged attacks, reducing damage by another 20% when blocking, which pairs well with the block rate gem, and some others, but I find her default defensive abilities are strong enough, and the extra damage will make maintaining aggro significantly easier. Additionally, make sure you're running Swift Song on an ally if you're at the point of the game where you can get this skill. The accuracy and evasion buff is very, very useful, especially against the super bosses, story bosses, and other unique monsters. Other party buffs are very beneficial to have as well on someone in the party, like the skills that increase damage 30% for the party, and the skill that reduces damage taken by 15% and increases healing by 15%. For gem setup, I have increased agility by 35 to evade more attacks, and powered combo because you should be able to spam cancels constantly, so this should give you a pretty nice damage boost, and analyze weakness to get another boost to critical damage as well. This should help with maintaining aggro, and once you really get going, it should be extremely hard to lose it, even if your attackers are on the strongest attacking classes. And the cancel damage bonus is also really, really nice for this as well, especially if you are directly controlling Mio and getting every cancel you can. Steel Protection is another pretty good consideration for damage mitigation if needed, and a general attack buff can be nice if you're not running any extra critical hit rate abilities. Steady Striker is kind of bad on Zephyr because its short cooldowns means you may have to auto-attack one time before being able to use arts again, so any faster intervals are not needed. For accessories, I am running the Iovis Ring, which is a 40% boost to agility, which is very self-explanatory for extra evasion. Chaotic Memory is an accessory I like a lot and is extremely useful against enemies with higher block rate and evasion. It works particularly well for a class like Zephyr, which is canceling all the time, allowing you to always get your full damage value and not have your attacks blocked, which can stop your cancel combos and reduce your damage a lot. I think it's definitely worth running against certain enemies, and it's a lot of fun to use as well. Ceramic Belt finishes the set off. You can run Saturni Rings for an even higher attack boost than this, but since there's only one, it should probably be on an attacker, so Ceramic Belt is probably going to be your best bet for an attack boost in general, just to get more damage and to get more aggro that way. Now there are some other powerful options. You can run a Thermos headgear to flatly increase critical hit rate up to 41% if you have the legendary variant, which I do not, but it will help a lot with all the critical damage. You can run other damage boosts, like against certain enemy types. And there's some nice survival options like Brute Memory, which lets you survive with 1 HP for 5 seconds and gives 5 seconds of invincibility to recover. As a final tip, certain classes like Tyon's Tactician come with the field effects to boost evasion further, which synergize very well with Zephyr. You can also attach defense boosting field effects to Agnes healer classes or by using a War Medic. This should cover all the setup you need to worry about, so let me show you how this build works practically. So I decided probably the best type of showcase would be doing the super boss on hard, just because I haven't done it on hard yet, and I thought it would be a good showcase just because this super boss has a very high block rate, and you can kind of see the benefits of chaotic memory being able to always go through block rate and evasion no matter what. And one thing you'll notice is that every hit I'll start getting more and more critical hits until I eventually reach that 100% extra crit rate. At the start, Noah's going to take some aggro just because he's playing a really, really strong attacker class, but I'm able to take it back pretty quickly before something too bad happens to him. Soul Hacker's just a really strong class, and while he has his arch charge at the beginning of combat, that can be a little bit of an issue, but once you get going, it shouldn't be too hard to take aggro back with my current setup, and from there, it should be really easy. Now, you'll notice that a lot of my auto attacks he is blocking, because that is just how this fight kind of goes. And what you'll also notice is I'm trying to use Cross Impact before using my Talon Art or before using Hidden Thorn and Wild/Fusion Art, because that's going to give me the most damage there. And you do not have to use Fusion Arts. You can just do a bunch of cancels back to back like I just did right here. Like, that was just like 6 arts back to back into my Talon Art. And you can see the Talon Art's doing like over 50,000 per hit when it crits, which is really nice. The Fusion Arts help build up the Ouroboros meter as well, so that's something that we can be building towards when we have those up. And like I said, you don't have to use Fusion Arts. If you don't want to use Fusion Arts, you can get like a bunch of cancels in a row if you have like everything charged up at the start. Since Airfang and Butterfly Blade have a cooldown of 3, it allows you to do a lot of arts back to back to back to back, which can be nice as well. We have our chain attack already, but I wasn't going to chain attack yet because I wanted to try to save it for when I knew I could win the fight with it. Unfortunately, it doesn't end up working out exactly how I hoped in that department, but at the very least, you can see Mio's still pretty full on health, not taking too much damage. The only thing that's really happening is my party members are having a little bit of difficulty with the AoE attacks, like Noah just died right there, but we do have healers to revive him. So, one thing I can do in this fight is if my AI gets too far away from me and are stacking the field abilities in really weird locations, I can quickly use Follow Leader to bring them all close to me, and that'll line up everyone kind of on top of each other. That little menu there is the manual interlink for all of the Ouroboros forms. I'm just going to activate Mio and Noah for now. And Mio's Ouroboros form isn't as strong as Noah's, so if I wanted to do more damage, I would swap to him. Although Mio's is good at keeping aggro just because of being a tank class and having agility abilities that raises her attack every time she evades. That's really nice. I use Resonant Edge while he's using an attack there to try to get some extra damage during the rest of this. And while my art's going off, I'm going to activate Uni and Tyon's Ouroboros so they can start doing some damage while we got some buff actives on everyone, since Uni and Tyon get extra damage when there's buffs on the party. And then I go back to attacking with Mio, get aggro off of anyone else, and start trying to move closer to my allies again so I can take advantage of the field effects and just keep canceling those arts. Pretty much the only time that I'm not getting cancels or getting blocked at all is on the auto attacks, and we only have to use like one auto attack before I use any arts. And you can see the damage is actually really high, especially for a defender class. And considering all the arts we have, it's very, very easy to keep aggro, as you might imagine. Now, we're getting close to the point where I could probably chain attack and go for a kill. But unfortunately, Uni and Valdi both end up dying at the same time from the AoE. So, Valdi gets revived, and I'm going to wait to chain attack until Uni is alive, or so I thought. That's what I wanted to do. But Mio gets very low on health, and Uni's just not coming back alive, so I just go for the chain attack right here. And since Uni's dead and I have Valdi for the purpose of preventing spoilers, it's going to be very, very difficult to get an actual finisher in this chain attack. So because of that, a lot of this chain attack is just used as a way to heal my party up and make sure that we're good on health. I actually probably could have ended it if I played it a little bit better than I ended up doing, but overall it was still helpful for getting all of my party members up to full health besides Uni, who's obviously still dead, and letting me continue the fight without too many issues at all. Since this isn't part of Zephyr gameplay, I'll probably speed through it. Although I do use one of Mio's attacks in the chain attack, it's best to use your most powerful fusion art in a chain attack no matter what. So for Mio, that would be Wide Slash and Hidden Thorn. That's going to give you the most damage in the chain attack, and also apply a bleed effect that can take the rest of the chain attack. A lot of this stuff, regenerative effects and bleed effects and burn effects will, blaze effects, I should say, will continue throughout the duration of a chain attack. As you can see, Kilocorn Grand Depths is healing constantly here. That's part of his Enrage. And what I could have done if I got a little luckier is get Noah back on one of the last ones of one of the last rounds here. And considering we had Power Charge set up and ready to go, I could have passed that with Senna's Signifer and done a lot there. As you can see right here, we can do quite a bit of damage just on that round. I don't know if we would have had enough to kill with the extra round and then the Ouroboros round afterwards, but we probably would have even without Uni. But unfortunately, since Uni was dead to begin with, I didn't end up getting the optimal round order or ability to finish this attack off. But regardless, I did get everyone back up to full HP, so that was really nice. And we can go back to attacking with Mio afterwards. And she's going to still have aggro, so that's really nice as well. So, one thing about this enemy specifically is because the block rate's so high, you may want to consider like an auto balancer for the auto attacks, just so you can always be canceling constantly no matter what and can't even get blocked on your auto attacks. But at that point, you probably have to run less evasion, which can definitely be really dangerous, especially if you're on hard mode. So that is something to keep in mind. And one other good thing about this type of spammy setup is that we build up our inner link faster, because I can go instantly back into another level 3 here, which is really nice. And from here, what I want to do is swap to Noah, actually, and try to go for a finisher really soon with his Talon Art. Because one thing Noah can do is apply Power Charge to himself and the entire party and use his Ouroboros Talon Art, which can do a lot of damage. So that's what I end up doing here. Swap to Noah really quickly, his form, then use Mega Spinning Edge. And we get a decent chunk of damage there, not quite enough to kill, but good enough for now. And from here, his health is really low, so it's not too much longer to finish this. Just a few more arts, and then we should be good to finish his health bar. Next time, I'll chain attack properly, so we don't have to deal with anything scary. Hopefully that fight was enough to show up the evasion tanking abilities of Mio and her damage potential, and why I enjoy using this setup. It's very fun when it gets going and has a lot of positive benefits, and it's probably one of the fastest and most spammy classes in the entire game. Since this was the first guide for classes, I'm interested in hearing feedback in the comments of anything you think I should change or add next time. And I do hope you guys learned something from watching this and want to experiment yourself now. As always, if you enjoyed, please be sure to like the video, comment, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. And as always, thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful and blessed day.